Okay, it's just about straight up at 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I see a lot of folks still coming in, so I hope that you managed to catch everything. Um, all the webinars, just so you all know too, they're always posted up in your curriculum under the forum tab, so you can always go there. They're organized by year. And usually, for instance, this one, there will be a PDF associated with it, so you can always download those too and keep them for future reference in case you didn't catch some of the things that were discussed. So without further ado, good morning. Welcome to yet another Wednesday webinar. Today I'll be presenting, and as you can see, my name is Audrey Kirchner. I'm a CHDS here at CanScribe and an instructor. My presentation today is Ramp Up Your Game with Keyboard Shortcuts. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I apologize. I'm getting over a cold, so my voice kind of goes in and out, but I have plenty of water and hopefully I'll make it through without going mute on y'all. So, and we will go ahead and take questions and answers at the end as usual. And I've muted everyone so that we can just go through the presentation. So one of the main reasons why we talk about shortcuts in the first place is that we start to analyze about shortcuts. Why do we need them in medical transcription? Well, I can say from personal experience that they do help you save time. They help you save keystrokes, which is incredibly important when you think about long-term use of arms and hands. And studies have shown and borne out that indeed you will become more productive. Now, what are shortcuts? Basically, it's an accelerated way of doing anything. It takes you from point A to point B faster than if you went the regular way, let's say. And it's also a way, especially in computerized technology today, of gaining quick access to something. The beauty of shortcuts for our intents and purposes is that most programs, if not all, have keyboard shortcuts. It's just a matter of figuring those out and figuring out the ones that are going to be most beneficial to you. Not all of them will be something that you want to use because we're all different. The bottom line in transcription, they are geared to keeping you away from the mouse. They do not want you to use the mouse because you end up losing productivity and you end up endangering yourself, to be honest, for more tendinous injuries and things like that, simply because using the mouse overly actively or overactively can produce symptoms that are very unique. Many of the shortcuts, they will transfer from program to program. A couple that come to mind are ones that I'll show you later on, but you can use them in all of the Office programs, Microsoft Office. And as long as you've learned them in one program, you can always try them in another program and see if they work. And once you do start learning them, it becomes easier and easier to learn more. The beauty of the shortcut is staying away from the mouse. Go mouseless. It's kind of a catchphrase, but if you can do it, you will see a remarkable increase in your productivity. First of all, we're going to talk about some Windows basic shortcuts that can make your life simpler. And I know a lot of people probably know some of these, but there just might be one or two that you haven't discovered yet. So we're going to cover those just because they are shortcuts indeed, and they apply to what we most do, surfing on the net. It seems like we do a lot of that with research. So if we want to learn a couple of these, these are some of the ones that I picked out that I thought were very applicable to what we do every day. So if you want to open your Windows Explorer all you have to do is hit the Windows key on your keyboard plus E. And the nice part about the shortcuts is it saves steps. You do half the work. And that is a very important part of using shortcuts because you want to trim down the time that you're fooling around, messing around with your mouse or your keyboard trying to find things. So this little Windows key plus E gives you your drives on your computer. So let's say that you were looking for a document, your account specifics. You could also have a shortcut pasted there if you wanted to go right to that. So that's a really cool shortcut to remember. Again, this is provided in a PDF file, so you don't have to remember these or write these down. They're all going to be there for you. Let's say that all of a sudden somebody came into your office and you just really need to close down your computer. You don't want your neighbor, excuse me, seeing that report that you're working on because really that is a HIPAA violation. So you want to go back to your screensaver. So you can do that by hitting the Windows key plus M. You can also do it by hitting Windows key plus D. This one actually opens the window back up again once you've done it, which I prefer because it doesn't help me a whole bunch if I close the window and then I have to go back to my mouse to reopen it. So it does help to have a key or a shortcut that you know that will restore something the same way you had it. So that's a really nice trick. If you're like me, I have so many windows open and so many browsers open that sometimes I'm just like, where did I see that? Which page was that on? And so this is just one example of a slow day for me with this many open, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to be, which page I want to be on. Well, you can scroll your open windows by doing Alt plus Tab. It does start flipping around kind of, and it highlights each page this way, which is cool, and you can slow it down, of course, and click on the one that you want and go to that page. The one I really like is this one. The Windows key plus the tab, you just start flipping through them and they come towards you one page at a time, which I prefer. So, but again, you have to find your sweet spot. You have to find which one of these shortcuts is going to work for you. As in many things, Windows and Microsoft Office, all of these programs, they have multiple ways of doing things, if you've noticed that. There are several ways to get from point A to point B. And the best thing to do is figure out, hey, does that work for me or does this one work better? I always think less keystrokes the better, but it's not always true. Simply because if something doesn't work, you know, the opposite way, to go back the way you wanted, maybe that extra keystroke is worth it for you. So that's what you have to decide individually. Excuse me. Another good one is no matter what program you're in, if you hit Alt plus F4, it will close the window. And I think that's really a nice thing to do. Sometimes we, like I say, we have so many things open that we can't find something. You can also use, again, it's redundant, but you can use Alt plus the spacebar plus C, and you can also use Control plus W. It's kind of crazy how many things that you can actually do to different shortcuts. They do the same thing, but they're all a little bit different. You can move up and down, side to side by using your Control plus arrow keys. I'm sure that you've probably noticed that in your web surfing, or at least I hope so. Especially in Word, this becomes really important because you use your arrows to move to whole words. You can highlight whole words, phrases, sentences. You can highlight a whole paragraph. So really this has been the most time saving one for me actually of all, is just learning how to use my arrow keys and to highlight text and begin to perfect that and do it without looking, because I can just fly through a document. And if I need to copy text, let's say from a normal or something like that, it just becomes so much more time saving than reaching over for my mouse and highlighting all this stuff and copying it. I wish we had these in our life, you know. It would be really cool. Just Control Z and undo it. It never happened. Wow, that's awesome. Or those magical moments, Control Y. Oh, I had that all over again. That was so cool. But if you want to, you know, wipe something out that you've made a mistake, undo an action by hitting Control Z. That works in almost every program I can think of. Or if you change your mind, Control Y will put it back. And I use Control Y a lot. For instance, if I'm doing spreadsheets or I'm doing templates, things like that, I just keep hitting Control Y and I can put in as many of something as I want. So those are both really really nice things to know, and those are transferable to about every program I can think of under the sun. Again, back to the arrow keys. As I said, in Word or in Excel or even in PowerPoint, you can use your Shift and arrow keys, and you can highlight text. You can highlight groups of cells without the mouse, and you can just, you know, go up, down, sideways, whatever you want to do, and highlight blocks of text or cells. And I think that's really important. These are some of the shortcuts that I was speaking of that I think work in at least all of the Office programs. You can Control U, you can Control B, and you can Control I. That will end up underlining, bolding, and italicizing for you. And those are really simple ones to master. Those are probably some of the first ones that I ended up doing. A lot of accounts, they don't use underlining or bolding, and even fewer use italicizing, but it does come up, and it does come up in you know, medical documents or other typing that you might be doing. It certainly is applicable if you're doing resumes, things like that. But just learning those little simple things, for instance, if you need to bold allergies within a document, that's the most important one probably that I would suggest you learn first. So these are just very, very simple, quick things, and they're very easy to remember because they're associated with the first letter of what they do. Excuse me, plus the Control key. So let's move on to transcription software shortcuts. And this is where a lot of people say they really crank up the heat on their productivity just by learning how to move within your transcription platform or your program without ever touching that mouse. I actually taught a course in a bricks and mortar school. It was a community college in Oregon, and this was a couple of years ago. They had the program, they had everything provided, but they did not want the expense of providing foot pedals. And I did not know this until the day before the class started. And they did give us instructions. We were using a program called Express Scribe, which is a standalone program. But all that aside, I quickly made up, I read the literature on it, I figured out the hotkeys, and I passed it out with a template for the entire class of 20. And I thought to myself, this is insane. They will never, ever be able to do this without a foot pedal. And these people were mostly coders and billers. They were taking this as an elective class. Well, I kind of had to eat my words because to a person, every one of them learned it. And they were so fast that when I walked around the classroom watching them type, I was absolutely amazed. And I think they were faster than I would have been using a foot pedal. So it is possible, You just have to devote time to doing it. You have to become very disciplined about, I'm going to learn this. I'm just going to get faster and faster at it. And you have to keep practicing. But just for instance, in your platform, in your curriculum, these are some of your hotkeys that you can use instead of your foot pedal. So it does work. I've typed with these within the program and they do help. You just have to perfect it. Nothing comes without practice. And I would emphasize that most of all. Shortcuts are meant to be practiced. And we'll have a little bit more on that later. I happened to just find this on the internet. It was a recommendation from somebody at M-Modal. And she was just saying how you can ramp up your production by just using these simple commands. Control plus E allows you to slow down the playback speed. Control plus R will get you back to regular speed, and Control plus T will speed it up. And I do encourage you to start thinking of things like that, like if you wanted to remember that better. Control plus R, regular. Just associate that with a word so you know that in your head. And the more you do these, of course, it would become easier and easier. So you wouldn't have to look at a cheat sheet, let's say. Control T, you could assign it Control Turbo. You're making him talk very fast. And Control E, ever so slow, or however you want to, associate that to remind yourself. But every program that you're going to work on, every platform, is going to have a ton of these little magic gems. They're usually located under Tools or Options. And it's always on a pull-down ribbon menu what they are, or you can find them in the help menu sometimes. But even MDAT and InScribe, if you look here, there are so many different F1 through F12 that you can use, and you can also create some of your own or reset them. You can do all kinds of things. So I do encourage you to always check that out in a program. I went ahead and looked at the fluency as well, because I'm one of the practicum instructors, and this is a list of only about 1/3 to 1/2 of those shortcuts listed there. It's phenomenal how many shortcuts they have for you to use. And again, it's just a matter of, you can't learn them all at once, and it is a matter of which ones are important to you, which ones work. I've tried some shortcuts for a while and decided that is just stupid. I don't like it. I'm not doing it. And so I replace it with a different one that I want to learn. So I do encourage you to think about those kinds of things as you go along. What do I need to do that's going to make my life easier? What do I really want to speed up? And that's the whole thing. How do we measure productivity? It's different for all of us. Some of us are faster typists than others. Some of us are better researchers than others. Some of us are better auditorily than others. So it comes down to, what are the areas that you're having problems with, and how do you want to change that? And every little increase is something. It doesn't have to be leaps and bounds every time. It can be just small things that you add on to over and over again. I think of it as playing the piano. You can't learn to play the piano in a week. You also cannot learn to be a keyboardist in a week. It's going to take time. A lot of experts at the company say that you can ramp up your production immediately by 20 to 25% if you learn keyboard shortcuts. People on the internet claim that just by using shortcuts on computers you can ramp up 6 months worth of productivity, which sounds very high to me, but I don't know. I don't know how they're measuring that. But again, any increase in productivity is going to be golden for your situation. And the time that you invest in learning those shortcuts is going to pay off tremendously. But it is an individual measure. So now let's go to word shortcuts, which there are, I will tell you, just at least, I think there are hundreds, but if you break it down. There are all kinds of little intricate things that you can do within Word. Many platforms are based on Word, so if you learn them, they might be, probably will be transferable to other platforms, especially typing ones. So I would encourage you to try to learn as many of these as you possibly can. The one I did not include on this page is Control A, which is extremely important to me. I usually have text on a page and I need to highlight the whole thing and paste it into a document, for instance, when I'm merging reports. But the ones that you probably would like most would be Control C, which is copy that. After you've highlighted it all, which is A for all, you want to Control C to copy whatever portion you've highlighted, and then if you're going to take it somewhere, Control V to paste it. If you want to cut it, you can use Control X. And as you can see, there are lots of actions and lots of keyboard shortcuts. This is just the beginning of what you can find in Word to do. You can also do Alt spacebar to close your program, for instance, if you want, or you can do Alt 4. The Alt plus spacebar, as I was saying, this works in all Office programs, and many of these commands work across the board in Microsoft Office products. Here's some more basic. Control W, close the active window or the document. As we mentioned, Control Z, undo. Control Y, redo, repeat. Control S, really a good one, save the document. Control P, print your document. Control K, insert a hyperlink. And maybe on that one, associate that K with the last letter in hyperlink. Alt left, go back one page. Alt right, go forward one page if you have a long document. So all of these can, just really be simple and simply remembered, but it does take practice. Now we get a little bit more complicated when we start adding other keys. Control Shift A, format all letters as caps. That's awesome. That saves you from going all the way up to your ribbon and clicking on that with your mouse after you have highlighted everything. So this is like just a crazy good shortcut for a lot of reports. I need to make that a heading. Boom. Control B, it applies or removes your bold. We've already mentioned that. And the Control I, again, will italicize for you. You want to apply subscript formatting. That's probably not something that you would use too much, but you can do it. Alt FA, save as. That's a really good one right there. Very, very fast way to save something. Your table of contents in document typing, yes, you might use those. Full screen reading, document views, all of those might have some application for you. And Donna is asking about the subscript. That means that you have like the CO2, let's say, and the 2 is below the line. Superscript is above the line, subscripting is below the line, just so you know. And some of these ruler view, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure that we would really use those so much, but Alt FX, exit Word, yes, we would. You also might find some of these helpful. As I was mentioning, Control A takes everything on that page and highlights it for you. Then if you wanted to change your font, Control D, you can pop right to that thing without going up and looking all over the place on your ribbon, which is what I end up doing, and going through every tab trying to figure out where is it. And I think just even having these in a notebook or having a list of them, sometimes just writing them down reinforces what you're learning. And if you write them by hand, supposedly it increases your retention. But if you type them out or if you have a printed list of them and you just refer to that list, it's still going to save you time because over weeks and months you become more proficient and you can cross that off your list. Oh, I know that one. I don't even have to look at it anymore. Control F is super. You want to find a word in something, and many times that works even on the internet, or it works, you know, a search box. It can work in a lot of different programs. So you want to make sure that you know how to find something in your document or when you're searching. Again, insert that link, your hyperlink, and that means a hyperlink is something that you stick in your report that you can click on and go right to that web page. Control N opens a new blank, or yes, a new or blank document window for you. And just to review, just let's kind of go over what we've heard so far. Control S will save the document, just like Shift F12. And again, a lot of duplicity in these programmings. So just find the one that works for you. But when you folks are looking at these control commands or these shortcuts, do you remember all of them just from the little bit that we've gone over? So how'd you do? These are the answers. And again, these are some of the most basic, and I would start out with these if you don't know these already, because it will help you. And then when you start adding more complex, you know, add a shift in there, or whatever, an alt command, it's going to help you. So just associate these simple ones with their letters and what they do. Now let's see, as I mentioned, when we do start adding other keys, Control F is find, but Control Shift F is going to change the font. But that was the same command, again, duplicity, as Control plus D, but it's another way to get there. And one that I particularly like is Control Shift L, insert bullet points. Now, when we start talking about text, as I said, this is what really helps me so much. After I learned all those basics, I started doing a lot of the arrows just because I wanted to be able to navigate through my document without ever reaching for my mouse. Once my keys are on that keyboard for that report, I want to stay there. I don't want to be flipping over here and messing with my mouse. So if we do Control plus left arrow, it's going to move us one word to the left. If we go Control plus the right arrow, we go one word to the right. That just means that you're moving your cursor. If you go Control up arrow, you're moving to the beginning of the line or the paragraph. Control down arrow to the end of the paragraph. Then if we want to go to delete a word, say we're doing editing, Control delete. It deletes the word to the right of the cursor. Control backspace, if you think about it and mentally visualize that, it's deleting the word to the left of the cursor because it's going backwards. Control end moves the cursor to the end of the document, and Control home moves you back up to the top. So, and basically, once you know these commands, then you start being able to add things like highlighting them and doing things like that, which become just routine after you've figured out how to move with arrows. You can do Alt Control F2 to open a new document in Word. We can toggle, and this is what happens if you do Control or Alt Control F2. You're going to go to your library or wherever you have lots of your documents, and instead of going through your entire computer tree, you can just click on that and end up going into the folder that you wanted. Control plus Shift plus F6 switches to another document in Word. Control Shift plus F12 prints the document, which would be the same as Control P. The function keys, those also have a lot of actions that we can perform just using that top row. F1 to open help, that's in Word. F4, repeat the last action performed. F5, open, find, replace, and go to window. So that is basically an upgrade of what was it? I can't remember now. The find command. So if you don't want to just find something, you realize in your document that you have misspelled a word like 5 times. If you hit F5, you can go in there, find that word, and replace it after you typed in what you want to replace that with. F7 is usually always going to be your grammar and spell check. And if you notice in a lot of programs, you hit F7 to begin the process of uploading, and not in all programs, but in a lot of programs or platforms, and then it begins your spell check, which it makes you do before you can exit that program. F12, again, redundant, but you can save as. And here we have some shift plus the function keys. Again, really cool. Shift plus F3. You can change the text that you've highlighted from uppercase to lowercase with just that little command, instead of going all the way up to your ribbon looking for, is it this one or that one? It just becomes very tedious looking on ribbons, I've found. Shift F7 runs a thesaurus check on the selected word in case you need that. Shift F12 will save the open document, again, just like Control S. Shift Enter, you can create a soft break instead of a new paragraph. And that is usually for moving onto another page, things like that, where you want it to not bleed up to the page above it. Shift Insert, you want to paste something. Shift Alt D, insert the current date. Shift Alt T, insert the current time. So you can see there are a lot of things to do. Again, this is a lot of your basic commands, and I encourage you to study these. The one that we went over some of these before too, like moving. You need to just open a document and just learn to move by using key commands rather than your mouse. And then once you master that, add to it. Start highlighting things and practicing that. For instance, select or unselect one word to the left. That's going to be a very big boost to your productivity when you start being able to highlight entire words and phrases within a document and then make adjustments to those. Again, application is everything. So the Control Shift arrow moving up, down, left, right, as you can see, I highlighted that. I was able to highlight that all that text just by using my keyboard. So you can use it to highlight one word, many words or sentences or whole paragraphs, the entire report. So it's kind of a super shortcut group that you want to learn, from moving your cursor to different places in the report without ever touching your mouse, and then being able to highlight that text. That's going to save you time, and it's going to make you more money. I did put in the website that I found that gave me a lot of these shortcuts, and all you have to do is click on the word website. For those of us who are visual learners, I encourage you to go on YouTube and watch some of those videos, because they have tons of them. You can find videos, as I'm sure you're aware, of just about everything in the world on YouTube and other places as well. But select the ones that make sense to you. Make sure that you are getting the most bang for your buck out of whatever you put into this, and try a few of them. If you don't like them, you decide not to use them, there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal, because we all have to test things out and say, gee, is that helping me? It's like the piano analogy again. If I did an exercise on the piano and I just found it was just not working for me, it was not helping me at all, I would look in another book and I would make sure that I had an exercise that was helping me learn the skill that I wanted to learn. So there also, as I said, will be some PDFs. This one, and I have another one or maybe two, I think, that I will upload and will be right under the recording, so you can download those and keep them for your files. The goal of learning shortcuts is we want to create those the possibility of it in our mind. We want to evaluate it. That means which of these is going to work for me. Analyzing it, is this the best one for that job? Now you want to apply it. Is that working? And then you want to understand it and say, I do get it. I think I do get it. And then the goal, the ultimate goal is it worked and you remembered it. Those are the goals. How do you go about that? You create a plan and then you begin training. This is like any other skill. Again, like piano playing, like tennis, like anything. You have to select the shortcuts that you want to learn. And if you make too many of them, you probably will give up. So I suggested, just in thinking about how I went about it, have a group A maybe. Say those are my Windows shortcuts. I want to learn how to move around the internet easier. So pick one or two. Learn those. When you're done with those, replace them with two more. Group B, do word shortcuts or your program, typing platform shortcuts. Learn those. Again, learn them, replace them. And then maybe have a global shortcut of some kind, like closing the windows or flipping through, the windows that you have open, things like that. But monitor your progress, see how you're doing. There's nothing wrong with stickies. A lot of people don't recommend them being stuck on your computer. Some people don't mind that if you want to stick them to your desk. I actually had a printout and I put it in a little cube, a paper holder, and I just referred to that. And I disciplined myself that every single time I was going to highlight a word, I was not going to use my mouse. And I just made myself do it. You don't have to learn Windows shortcuts if you don't want to. It probably will save you some time though, but you could just do 4-word shortcuts or 10-word shortcuts. If you're that kind of person that you can do that, more power to you. I always think, it's a good idea to start small and build on it, just because my experience has been if you try to learn too many things at once, sometimes you give up. So select the ones that mean the most to you. We all work differently, as I said. Concentrate on the ones that you think are going to help you the most, and then try to use them over time without looking at the cheat sheets. But they do become routine, I can guarantee you. I had a really hard time with them at first. So I have attended a lot of seminars for different companies that I've worked at, and I encourage you to do that as well, because usually they have shortcuts that are very specific to their programming, and that can really help you a tremendous amount as well. And just by learning those, again, a lot of those end up being transferable, and you won't even know that you've learned them or absorb them until you start doing something else and you're like, oh wow, that worked. And I always advocate word expanders. That's the ultimate shortcut, with the caveat that we all have to be aware of. Expand at your own risk. It is the same as cutting and pasting wrong information. If we want to talk about a shortcut that is absolutely the most reliable, if we do it correctly, that is, reliable shortcut for cutting down on keystrokes. If we look at how many keystrokes are in all of these expansions, look at all the time we've saved. The last one, the patient was prepped and, is all I saved it as, and that's like 60 characters, and I typed out 5. So it's just incredible what you can do with word expanders. Everybody has their own that they like. I encourage you to always investigate those as well. See what works for you the best, what your companies recommend in the future. Many of them are transferable. Some have to be built from scratch. Some come built in, which I prefer, but it is something that you have to do as an individual just to try them out. This is an example of something that I put in. It's called my knee. I call it knee because he's always injecting the knee. and I have the whole report in there. So all I have to do is type in knee and it's formatted for me and everything. So it doesn't get any shorter than that. It's very simple once you get the hang of it. Again, there is a learning curve. You cannot learn any of this stuff overnight. So when I want to save something, and I was giving this as an example, when I made this shortcut, I highlighted all the text, and all I have to hit is Alt plus equal sign, and it gives me the option of saving that. So my time just got extremely ramped up there, because now every time I have that injection, I only typed it once, I highlighted it, saved it, and I have it forever, and I don't ever have to type that again. So that's really important. To review, again, shortcuts is something you're going to do to save time. You're going to go from point A to point B in less time, and you're saving keystrokes and preserving your precious tendons, muscles, ligaments, your frustration. You're saving on frustration. Every program has them. As I say, you always want to look for these. The transcription programs have lots and lots of them, as you saw with Fluency especially. Incredible. And every shortcut that you do learn will just be another building block and another tool in your kit. So check your program ribbons. You don't have to know them all. Just pick the ones that you want. This is just the calculator, for instance. So it does have different little things that you can do if you were so inclined, but check them out, pick the ones you want, and ignore the rest. Practice, practice, practice. Like I say, devote specific time to learning your shortcuts, because when you're in the middle of working, sometimes you just get so frustrated with the work itself that you can't really focus on the shortcut. So I always say take 15, 20 minutes. That's how I learned mine. I would just practice on a document until I got something and I understood it, and then I would try to incorporate it the next day into my work. And excuse me, and I would have my printout there so I could refer to that. Believe it or not, games can help you increase your speed on many levels, keyboarding especially. So it's not just for gamers, you know. I have this little game, Type for Your Life. I think it's really clever. Again, playing it a few hours a week, you know, you can increase your typing speed like that. When I taught the course, and I was acutely aware of how slowly some of the folks typed because they gave me their speeds, we started researching. They didn't like standard typing tests and doing that over and over and over. So I came up with some game sites, and they absolutely loved them, and they increased their speed tremendously just by playing these word games. So they're like, things are falling from the sky, and you have to type in the words associated with this thing falling from the sky, and they come faster and faster and faster, and they can be, depending on the level, very hard to type words. Even if they're not medical words, they're still helping you increase your speed. They're helping you hone in on your keyboard. Where should my fingers be? And if they're not there, they need to get there. Some other of the games use the spacebar and other keys. So Keymaster is another good one. I encourage you to just do that. My encouragement for the day is seeing words and phrases does help you to hear words and phrases. I'm a firm believer in this. From your eye to your ear is a short circuit. If you review medical reports, if you just look at what you're typing every day, you look at physical exams, you look at videos, you look at anything that has to do with what you do in the workplace, you're going to get better. You're going to hear it better because you've seen those words. Even if you don't know what they mean, you will hear them and be able to go and look them up. So I do believe that I'm at the end of my presentation, and I probably have a lot of questions, and I hope that I didn't miss any. If I did, please always email me, and I'm happy to answer those. Okay, so I'm going to start with sunshine. There are Those are great tips. Thank you very much. Good. You're transitioning from a Mac to a PC user. Awesome. I didn't think about that. That would be hard. I've never used a Mac, but I have always used just a PC, but my daughter told me that would be hard. Corey says, makes sense? Exactly. You want to practice, practice, practice. I tried to teach my husband piano a few years ago, and that only lasted a week because he wanted to be able to play like I played right away. And as I tried to point out, you cannot do that. It takes practice to learn skills. This is no different. So there are no, quote, shortcuts to shortcuts because you do have to put all that time and effort in to just learning. And once you do, though, you won't believe how you'll fly. There are links, Sherry, to practice exercises. I would just Google that. Basically, if I can think of something, I'll add that to my document. Basically, though, if you look up any kind of programming shortcuts, they usually have things associated with those, or you can Google practice exercises for just about anything and come up with some good links, I think. Josie, do you press the shortcuts before or after you type the words? Example, when using a shortcut to bold. Oh, good one. Actually, I think you can do it either way. You can highlight it all and then hit your Control B and it automatically bolds it. And sometimes that's what I do just because it's simpler. Like, for instance, if I was going to have to bold and capitalize the allergies, then I'm going to go ahead and type the allergy in first, and then I'm going to do everything that I need to do to it, you know, with a couple of keystrokes. But you can do before too. Sunshine, thanks for the vid suggestions and the websites. You're more than welcome. The specific sites will be accessible on the forum webinar. I think I just mentioned what they were called, and you can Google those pretty simply, I think. I don't think I put a hyperlink. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll do that before I post it. Kathy is asking, she's been using the Alt-Tab keys to view open screens, but when I get to the screen, say drugs.com, she always has to pick up my mouse to put the cursor in the search screen. Are you aware of a shortcut for this? I'm not off the top of my head. I see what you're saying. You're there, Kathy, but then you have to click on something to get into the search box. Sometimes if it's highlighted, I believe if it has an underscore under it, you can sometimes hit Alt, whatever that letter is, and you can go right to that. So I don't know if that's a possibility, but I don't know. I would just maybe even Google that question. Sometimes that's what I do. If I can't find something or I've hit something, oh, and Corey's saying sometimes using the arrows and then the space bar sometimes selects the spot that you want to be in. Well, maybe try that. I've hit something on my keyboard before. This mainly happened with my laptop, and it changed some letters to symbols, and I could not figure out how to get out of it. And it's happened to some students I know. I just go out and Google it and try to figure out how do I undo this? What did I do? So I would kind of just type in as much text as you can think of to ask the question, how do I do this? How can I shortcut this? And you'd be surprised, I think, at how many answers you might get. It would take you maybe a couple minutes to look and see if those were applicable to what you were really asking. Alt plus S to search. Yeah, Nadine, that might be the magic. I'm going to write that down and see if it works. Once you were in the program, you mean, and then Alt plus S to search. That might be it, or in that window. That's another good suggestion. So does anyone else have any questions for me today? As I said, they will be posted up probably within an hour. And I have some other documents that I made up too, but I might go back and add some hyperlinks for those games. So I do encourage you folks, though, to try as many of these as you possibly can, but again, make sure that they're for the program that you're, mostly interested in saving time doing, and also the word expanders, you're more than welcome, Corey. The word expanders, experiment with those. When you put a word, sorry, Sunshine's asking, when you put a report in Word, oops, it just moved on me. Expander, okay, like the injection. Can you use it even if wording on the current report changes? Yes. That's a good point, Sunshine. When I hit the my word expander to print out that report that I showed you, okay, it said right knee, didn't it? If I wanted to change that to left knee, it's right there in my document. So all I have to do is just go to that and change the side. Or you can even put in, you can be so sophisticated that you put in like question mark, question mark, question mark, and you go to that spot and put in right or left or whatever you need to do. So good question. But as soon as you expand something from your word expander, it's completely available to you to do anything you want to it. And Angela is asking, when we see a shortcut listed, one letter is sometimes underlined. What does that mean? Like undo, the U is underlined. That's what I was saying earlier. If you hit Alt or Control, I think it's Control. I think I got that wrong. I think it's Control plus U, wasn't it? And that will, when that letter is underlined, that means that that's the shortcut plus the Control key usually. If it's more extensive than that, you can always look at the commands to see. You're more than welcome, Charlene. Thank you for coming. And Allison, she loves her word expander. Yay! I know. That's the whole thing. If you learn to use some of these things, you just will not believe how much more productive you can be. I had to go back into typing. I used to just be a QA person, and there was more typing that I had to start doing on my job. And I quickly realized that I was not going to make very much money because it was taking me a long time to type everything out again. I'm fast, but I'm not as fast as I used to be because I've done this for so long. So word expanders really saved my life because I quickly ramped up my production to an unbelievable level just by investing in my word expander. If I had not had that, I probably would have been really upset because I was not making any money because I was typing everything from scratch. Okay, Ria's asking, do you know how to get to different tabs within an internet window? I think that was at the beginning. Because when you're scrolling, I don't want to go back up there because I'll make you all dizzy. But when you have all those open, you click on the one that you want. It's showing you every single window that you have open. So you just kind of click on the one, when it highlights it, bang, that's the one you do, and it opens that window. So I hope that makes sense. Kathy is saying Control plus Tab or Control plus Tab number. That's probably an answer to somebody's question. Sorry, I don't remember what the question was. Is that, maybe you mean for selecting the window? Maybe that's what it was, Kathy. Is that what it was? And links to games would be great, a bit of fun while learning and upgrading skills. There are other really great games out there too. I'm a huge proponent of playing games to increase your knowledge in medicine. Some are better than others. Some have spelling mistakes, some have capitalization mistakes, but as long as you're aware of that, I Google medical terminology crosswords, medical terminology word searches, medical terminology hangman. I honestly, I could play those games all day long if I wanted to, and I usually find them for students that request them. But I find it fascinating. I even have phone apps that I play if I have to wait at a doctor's office or if I have to wait in line somewhere. I just play medical word games, or I look at anatomy, physiology, word sites, things like that, because I don't feel like you can ever have too much knowledge, and I like to also see what's out there for you guys. So I do recommend that. I know that you folks are, have lives and the course is hard, but if you can squeeze out a little bit of extra time during the week just to practice these skills or to do games, do something like that, work on your typing speed, anything, it's still going to help you um, down the road, and it's going to help you be more productive and more accurate, which is the goal. So, okay, Dayton, thank you very much. She's confirming. Kathy's right. Control plus tab to switch browser tabs. Awesome. See, you guys know these things already. And control plus shift plus tab to move backwards through the tabs. Well, that's just awesome. Deborah's asking about word expanders. We have the one, Phrase Express, in the program, so I have to recommend that one. You do have to build the whole thing yourself, every entry that you make. There are other ones out there like Instant Text and Shorthand are two that come to mind. Speed Text, I think it's called now. They have dictionaries built in, and I prefer that. That's the only way I saved myself when I had to go back to typing. I did not have time to sit there and build things. So it was a matter of, hit the floor running. So I use Instant Text, but it, takes a bit of getting used to. Some people take to it, right away. Some people go, oh my goodness. So it becomes a matter of what works for you the best. I liked the idea of built-in dictionaries, to be honest. So that's a good thing. Victoria, you're married to your mouse. That's hilarious. Actually, my grandson came in my office the other day and he put a little toy car on my mouse pad, and I actually reached for that instead of my mouse. And the funny thing was, it had been sitting there for probably an hour, and I used my mouse so little I didn't notice. So I guess that's a good thing. But I was like, what is wrong with my mouse? It's not working. So that was kind of funny. But we all do our, our things the way that we feel most comfortable. And this is one of those things. It's an individual skill that you're going to find, this doesn't work for me, this works great for me. And the same with word expanders. You have to find your groove. The same with headphones. The same with, speakers. If you want to use speakers, you have to, own the job. You want to learn it the best way that makes you productive, the best way that makes you feel most comfortable. That's the thing. I've been on the receiving end of tendinous problems. I had severe problems with my arms for about a year or two, and I seriously thought I was never going to recover from it. Just some adjustments that I figured out how to do different things a better way, including seating, including my monitor being, in a certain spot. And I went to a lot of trouble just experimenting with different things, chairs, desks. I had a PT come out and talk to me about it, and OT as well, and I got it ironed out, and I've never had, knock on wood, never had any problems since. So, all of these are just tools. They're all components. They all form a whole. They make you the MT that you are. So I encourage you to always investigate. Don't do things I don't want to say cheap, because I know money is at a premium for all of us. But invest in things that will help you or that can accelerate your production, because companies nowadays, everyone, this job is based on production. But think about things that help you, that don't hurt you. but that you can afford and that will make you better at your job and increase your accuracy, of course, because that's the goal. You want to keep up your accuracy because those medical records, you know, really do matter. They're mine, they're yours, they're our children's, they're our mother and father's. So whatever you can do it, but only do a little at a time, because I think we can overwhelm ourselves very easily. But thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing you next time. All right, y'all have a super week, and I will talk to you another day. All right, bye. Thank you all.